So we have Richard Weihe, one of our Swiss writers. He was born in Bern and grew up near Zurich. He has written 3 novels, several plays, and a half a dozen opera libretti. He has translated Mark Strand's poetry and the Elizabethan playwrights Francis Beaumont into German. He teaches at the Scuola Teatro Dimitri, widely and affectionately known as Dimitri's Clown School in Tessin. His first novel, Sea of Ink, is a fictionalized biography of the 17th century Chinese painter Badashan Ren. His third novel, Ocean of Milk, is a portrait of the Hungarian Indian painter Amrita Shergill, known as the Frida Kahlo of India. Born in 1913, Amrita spent her early years in Budapest, but moved back to India when she was 8 years old. There, her artistic talent was evident early. At 16, she returned to Europe and studied painting at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. In fact, they had to change admission rules for her because she was so young. She was deeply influenced by Cézanne and Gauguin, as well as, after several months in Florence, the Italian masters. She was soon renowned for her paintings. In 1933, at the age of 20, she won the first prize in the École des Beaux-Arts annual competition. And she was just as well known for her bohemian lifestyle. In 1938, she moved back to India to escape the impending war and the overwhelming influence of the great European painters. Europe belongs to Picasso, Matisse, Braque, and many others. India belongs only to me, she once declared. In Lahore, then the cultural capital of northern India, Amrita fused the European techniques and aesthetics she had been trained in Europe with the vibrant colors and stylized modes of classical Indian painting and created a distinctive style of her own. When she died at the age of 28 under mysterious circumstances, she had established herself as one of the founding members of Indian modernism and left behind 172 paintings, but is still relatively unknown outside of India. So.
Guten Tag. Ich muss vorausschicken, diese 2 Namen, die ich erwähne, Prinzessin Bamba ist eine deutsch-äthiopische Prinzessin, die hier vorkommt, und Marie Antoinette ist nicht der Name der Königin, sondern der Name der Mutter meiner Protagonistin, Amrita Shergill. Kurzer Ausschnitt zu der Szene, die du erwähnt hast. Wie zu den Zeiten, als Prinzessin Bamba in Begleitung von Marie Antoinette nach Lahore kam, umgab sich Bamba auch jetzt noch gerne mit Künstlerinnen und Künstlern. Die Abende bei der Prinzessin waren eine Institution für alle, die in der Kunst und Literatur mitreden wollten. So waren auch alle versammelt, als Bamba einen Abend veranstaltete, um Amritas Ausstellung im Künstlerbund anzukündigen. Nach der Ansprache von Sir Abdul, dem Präsidenten des Künstlerbundes, meldete sich Herr Fabri, der Direktor des Kunstmuseums, zu Wort. Ich möchte Ihnen zu dieser Entscheidung gratulieren, Sir Abdul. Um es einmal vorsichtig auszudrücken, diese Ausstellung könnte für die indische Malerei richtungsweisend sein. Trotz europäischer Wurzeln hat Amritas Werk eine einheimische, spezifisch indisches Flair. Bei anderen sogenannten indischen Künstlern, die sich die europäische Maltechnik mit Öl auf Leinwand angeeignet haben, sehe ich diese spezifische indische Qualität nicht. Es handelt sich, um genau zu sein, um Präraphaeliten der 3. oder 4. Generation. Den Eingeweihten war klar, dass sich diese Bemerkungen auf Rob Krishna bezogen, Fabris Intimfeind. Er stand hinten im Saal mit einem Weinglas in der Hand. Krishna hatte am Royal College in London Malerei studiert und war danach in den Bannkreis eines literarischen Zirkels geraten. Hier hatte er seine britischen Manieren und seinen Akzent verfeinert. Vor der Zeit in London hatte sich Krishna einige Jahre lang als Maler auf dem Montmartre durchgeschlagen. Auf dem Pariser Parnasse wandelte er neben den kommenden Berühmtheiten der modernen Malerei sowie Scharen derjenigen, die immer unbekannt bleiben würden. Rob Krishna fühlte sich durch Fabris Behauptungen persönlich angegriffen. Herr Fabri, ich habe jahrelang auf dem Montmartre gelebt und gearbeitet. Wollen Sie im Ernst behaupten, Amrita sei eine indische Künstlerin? Sie malt im Stil hunderter Studenten der École des Beaux-Arts in ihren jämmerlichen Gruppenateliers. Ihr künstlerisches Vokabular ist vollkommen passé. Es kommt ein halbes Jahrhundert zu spät, um neu zu sein. Sie malt bei ihrem Großvater Paul Gauguin ab, mit dem Unterschied, dass ihr Talent höchstens für ein paar dicke Striche reicht. Mich stören diese Pseudo-Progressiven, die sich zu Verkündern einer neuen, wahren Kunst Indiens aufspielen. Amrita hatte sich schon in Stellung gebracht und wartet nur auf den Moment, um zu kontern. Rob, warum ist Ihre Arbeit so wenig wert? Weil Ihren Bildern jede Lebendigkeit fehlt. Sie sind vollkommen ausdruckslos. Wenn Sie etwas ausdrücken, dann einen eklatanten Mangel an Farbsinn. Ihren Bildern fehlt jeder visuelle Reiz. Aber es ist klar, dass Sie sich Mühe geben und krampfhaft versuchen, sich weiterzuentwickeln. Leider ist Arbeitswille ungefähr das Einzige, was man Ihnen vorbehaltlos zugestehen kann. Ihr Name bezeichnet zwar eine Inkarnation des Göttlichen, doch von Ihrer Kunst kann man das sicher nicht behaupten. Und was meine Arbeit betrifft, haben Sie etwas Richtiges gesagt. Es stimmt. Europa gehört Matisse, Picasso, Braque und vielen anderen. Aber Indien gehört mir allein.
Amrita had met a painter in Buda, whose studio she was now sharing. Despite her many fears about the future, she was once again filled with the urge to create. For a new painting, Amrita had found a pretty blonde girl in the ballet school next door and, as a second model, a Roma girl she'd approached in the park. Amrita set 2 chairs against a white wall and asked the girls to undress. They were shy and refused at first to take off their clothes. Amrita persuaded them and stood before her easel, giving them directions. She told the gypsy girl to sit on the edge of her seat and the dancer to stand next to her with an arm around her shoulders. For the Roma girl's skin, Amrita chose an especially dark shade of brown that almost looked black, and she used that same color for the floor tiles and the chairs. The canvas was too small to fit the entire chair to the left of the easel. Amrita painted it almost without depth, like a silhouette. Its shape hardly resembled a chair, but looked instead like part of the floor. In the lamp's harsh light, the girls' bodies threw clear shadows onto the wall, and Amrita painted the shadows as they appeared. But when she stepped back from the canvas several feet and looked at her painting, she wasn't satisfied. Amrita toned down the contrast between the figures and the wall. She scraped off the pigment in several spots, but didn't erase the shadow between the dancer's legs. She didn't care if an incomplete shadow was not compatible with a complete figure. The young dancer's eyes were not blue, but Amrita painted them light azure and without pupils. They were the glass eyes of a doll. Was this doll Aryan enough for the National Socialists? Would they notice that the blonde, blue-eyed girl was not perfectly proportioned, that her hands and feet were too big? Wouldn't those guardians of fair complexions and pure blood protest at the top of their lungs that this fair-skinned girl was not only touching a girl with dark skin, but even had her arm around her? Would they understand that this contradictory pair was no contradiction because the 2 girls together represented a single person, Amrita herself? When the painting was finished, Amrita considered various titles. Should she in fact call it a self-portrait? Should she call it black and white, according to the worldview of the ignorant? Or should she call it blue gaze, as a reminder that the world can also be viewed through the lens of many colors? She finally decided not to allude to any of this and simply called the painting 2 Girls. Those who looked at the painting could decide for themselves what it meant. The travel documents had still not arrived. Then Uncle Nandor had an idea. He sent Amrita's old Indian-British passport, which had been rendered invalid by her marriage to Victor, to the British Embassy. He included medical opinions signed by 2 renowned experts, which stated that Amrita's precarious state of health, due to this or that condition, made her return to India of utmost urgency. The necessary treatment was not available in Budapest at the moment, and the volatile political situation made it unlikely that the situation would change anytime soon. On her return journey, the patient's husband, a certified medical doctor, could oversee her treatment. the medical experts also emphasized that the patient in question was a distinguished and celebrated young painter. The petition was successful. Not long after, Amrita and Victor received their Indian residency permits. In addition, Uncle Sundur had sent the embassy a letter certifying that Victor would receive a regular income as director of the family's factory clinic. The passports and visas were issued with no further delay. They quickly made all the necessary travel arrangements. Amrita gave away her European clothes. Victor packed all the medical equipment and furnishings he had recently acquired for his practice into crates and sent them ahead by steamer. Victor and Amrita had lived with Victor's mother for their entire stay in Hungary. As the day of their departure approached, Blanca grew increasingly restless and irritable. When they finally said goodbye, she lost all self-control and began wailing and flailing her arms. Blanca blamed her niece. Her relationship with Amrita had not gotten any closer since her niece had become her daughter-in-law, for seducing her son and luring him away from his homeland.